Stimulus checks could hit your bank account as soon as next week. News 4 Jack's consumer investigator Lauren Verno is joining us now with a look at how much money you could receive. Lauren?
So, Tom, that's $1 million question, right? At this point, we have a big relief bill so that the House is expected to pass by tomorrow morning. And today, President Biden said he plans to sign the bill as soon as it hits his desk.
We finally have some good news on Social Security. The Republicans have put forward new Social Security reform legislation. The lawmakers are negotiating on whether monthly benefit checks should actually be increased even more for low-income people. Many Americans actually qualify for an extra $100 a month. And now, let's not forget about this. The fate of Social Security and Medicare is back in the spotlight less than a couple of days before some action is being taken by Congress. The White House and the Democrats have made both entitlements central to their closing pitch to voters, sounding the alarm that a Republican majority in the House would actually look to cut programs that millions of Americans rely on, in a bid to reduce spending. So while some GOP lawmakers have not shielded away from talking about or altering these programs, many in the party have actually dismissed Democratic critics as a ploy designed to shift attention away from President Biden's inflation concerns and his concern about the economy as well. Now, Democrats in recent days have zeroed in on a particularly bleak scenario that a Republican-led House would actually hold a debt ceiling, threatening a government default and economic crisis if the Biden administration doesn't agree to spending cuts. Biden told reporters, Republicans have put us in default unless we yield to their demands to cut off Social Security and Medicare. They're so determined to cut off Social Security and Medicare. And if you guys didn't know, Medicare and Social Security programs benefit older voters who reliably cast ballots, even in midterm or year-off elections. The programs are also overwhelmingly popular with the public, making proposed cuts or changes politically risky. A poll from the Data for Progress found large majorities wanted to strengthen Social Security, including about 73% of independents and 73% of Republicans. Biden agreed to refuse any effort to cut entitlements in the next Congress during an address to the DNC. Republicans have long advocated for reduced spending, and some in the party have argued entitlement programs like Social Security have gotten too big or should be restricted to ensure they remain solvent. Much of the focus during the election cycle has been on a proposal from Senate Republican Rick Scott, the head of the GOP campaign arm, released early this year. The plan is to rescue America. It's included a proposal to sunset government programs every 5 years. It means that lawmakers would simply need to vote on to extend Medicare and Social Security. He also cited comments earlier this year from Ron Johnson, who suggested that funding for Social Security and Medicare should actually be approved yearly through the budgeting process. But with majorities in the House and within reach, GOP officials have actually treaded carefully around Scott's proposal and avoided committing to changes to entitlement programs. Lawmakers, including those in the running to chair the House Budget and House Ways and Means Committee, have spoken about the possibility of entitlement reform as a way to rein in spending. Republican Representative Jim Banks said at CBS News event earlier this month that the debt ceiling could be used to call for spending gaps, balance budgets, or even to cut discretionary spending actions that would not include Social Security and Medicare. Tens of millions of people rely on Social Security benefits to cut their living expenses. Many seniors are hoping that this year will provide some respite from their painfully high inflation, with the Social Security Administration largest COLA ever. Many people say they are cutting back on basics like food and medicine in order to stay afloat. And according to surveys from the Senior Citizens League, an nonpartisan advocacy group, the pinch is even more extreme for those who rely on Social Security as their sole source of income. Given that the average benefit payment rose 5.9% this year to $1,700, it fails to keep pace with annualized inflation that has already topped 8% as well.
$1.9 trillion. It is the largest COVID relief package we have seen since the beginning of the pandemic. Here's what's in it. $1,400 stimulus checks for anyone who makes $75,000 or less, or couples earning up to $150,000. That's your adjusted gross income on your tax return, not your annual salary. Unlike previous rounds, adult dependents, think college students or elderly parents, would receive the full $1,400 payments. And for the first time, families will receive a child tax credit, $3,000 for children.
In total, almost $142 million will go to low-income households. Lawmakers who supported the program said it will allow these people in Oregon to pay for necessities like rent and groceries. And while Oregon's economy has recovered quickly from the crisis, we know this recovery was not the same felt all across of Oregon workers. That's what a Senate Democrat in the state said. The one-time payments come as inflation hit a 40-year high. In May, state economists reported that 80% of Oregon workers now earn less, adjusted for inflation. And rural residents in eastern and southern Oregon, where average incomes are lower, will benefit from these payments. Stay wide, everybody. These payments are going to help so many people. Folks, what are your thoughts on the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI and SSDI? And do you think that President Biden is going to do something about this? Lawmakers across the country have approved a new round of stimulus checks. This new round of relief should begin to be paid out very soon in just a few weeks. And Congress is getting President Biden's spending bill, trying to get it passed by a new deadline. The three states, California, Delaware, and Indiana, are expected to make payments this month, while the city of Chicago is set to provide prepaid gas cards and transit cards. Eligible residents of California are set to receive payments under two stimulus packages passed last year. The first Golden State stimulus and the second Golden State stimulus. The state's residents will receive a check for either $600 or $1,200 in the first stimulus package, and a check for up to $1,100 under the second package. Some may receive lower payments under the second Golden State stimulus, depending on whether they qualified for the first Golden State stimulus. Californians who earn less than $75,000 will qualify this year. And in the state of Delaware, it's planned to issue a tax rebate by the end of the year. Individual filers are set to receive $300, and people filing jointly can get a rebate of $600. Delaware's Department of Finance told reporters recently the state anticipates sending the first round of payments based on 2020 return data. The Department of Finance also said they expect to make further rounds of payments. Any person who filed their taxes in the state of Indiana before January 3rd will be eligible. Paper checks may not be issued until July or August, but those who provided banking information with the 2021 tax returns will receive direct checks. And now, Democrats will continue their attempts to revive the sweeping climate and spending bill as the new congressional work period begins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'd like to direct my question first to Matt Seaholm because I thought that Chairman in waiting, Kathy Morris Rogers, raised some good points because of the problem we should have learned through COVID, that we need more plastics, not less. So, Matt, on these questions, there are two of the bills impose a 3-year moratorium on permits for plastic facilities, and that's to allow the EPA to develop environmental air quality standards. Now, we fully respect after 3 years of developing this, and we know it'll take 3 years to develop those, then they're going to go through a series of litigation. They always have. And then after the litigation's resolved, then we're going to move over to where actually these plastic manufacturers will have to have design and construct those facilities. So we could have a prolonged period of time. So my question is, how long do you think this pause could actually last?
Well, thank you for the question.